Hello and welcome to episode 95 of the Cutie Art Crusaders for April 29th, 2014. Also, part 2 of our main 6 countdown to episode 100. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of this week's podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Brony again. I'm the special guest coordinator, and this week I'm the editor of stuff.
I'm Flutterguy317, and I'm the media manager for the podcast. And Burned, you're back.
Burned is back from Babs.
Yeah.
Babs Coon.
It's a lot of bees.
Yeah. We're missing Atmo today, so he's
Yes.
Still in the States.
He's probably in the air somewhere. I don't know. He's flying.
Yeah.
He does that. He has superpowers. He's finally become a Pegasus and he's ascended.
He's just not going to come down now.
Exactly.
So last week, we had our Applejack-themed episode, and the stream decided to be lovely and derp completely, 20 minutes into the episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not really sure what happened. Livestream just kind of decided to
Technical
kick the bucket.
difficulties.
Yeah.
I was talking to our coordinator with EFN while it was happening. That was a fun 15 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it, and apparently, because we upload to YouTube and we also upload separately to live stream so that we can stream it, and the live stream is a lower quality one that can be uploaded and processed. So it had difficulties uploading early in the day, but then we redid it and it seemed to upload and it seemed to process perfectly fine, and it was all set to go. There wasn't any errors, but just for some reason it wouldn't play past that point. So we had to move it we had to just redirect people back to the YouTube. So sorry for anyone who came up to that and was inconvenienced by that, but sometimes technical difficulties happen.
We did set up, what was it, My Circle or something like that. It was like a sync tube kind of thing.
Watch it
that
through
we
third
set up.
party.
Yeah. Which was nice. We got 22 people in there. But it's still not as convenient as the actual Everfree stream.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who watched that with us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Sure.
That was fun.
If it happens in the future again where a stream goes down, just keep in mind that we will push the release of the YouTube video so that you guys can go watch it. Because usually we want the YouTube video to release after our podcast is done, so then people can watch it. But if the stream screws up, then we'll just push the release of that so you can go watch it there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we'll probably release a tweet or something that the stream is down, and we're gonna try and work towards getting it back up. But if we can't in a reasonable amount of time, then yeah.
Sometimes live stream is just live stream.
Yep.
So we have the second week here of our main 6 countdown to episode 100. Last week we had our first one with our guest Thrayton. That was the Applejack episode. And this week we have got the second episode, the Fluttershy episode, and we have got another special guest for you guys, as we are doing for every single one of these. So everyone give a warm welcome to our guest this week, Zargos. Do you prefer Zargos or Zargos 32? Does it depend?
Well, I prefer Zargos, but some sites out there had that already taken, so...
Do you mind if I call you Exergos?
Call me whatever you want, just don't call me late for dinner.
There you go.
Fair enough.
Hey.
All right. So yeah, we've got Zargos on this week. Zargos, to us, is someone who has been around in the chat for a lot of the time.
Thanks for
that
being
we have
around.
Yeah.
Had this podcast going. He's always been really involved with us. I know that he is one of the few people who kind of keeps up with us on Twitter a lot. He had the esteemed cool thing happen where he came to PAX East last year when Flutterguy and I were going out to that. That was the first convention that the CAC had gone to where people actually knew us. And I mean, it was a video game convention, so we weren't going there to meet people, but it just so happens that Zargos was also at PAX East, and so he came by and he said hi, and he was the first fan that we had ever met, just, that we didn't already previously know.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. So thanks for doing that, Zargos.
Yeah, that was really cool.
The pleasure's all mine.
I think Bern, I think you had met some fans of our show before that. But that was that was Rainbow Plasma and my first interaction with someone who actually watched the show.
A couple, but I'd gone to tons of pony conventions, So
Yeah. So that was really cool, and like it wasn't really unexpected because we kind of set it up beforehand, but I don't know, it was still just like a really neat experience to meet you and kind of hang out a little bit. So
Yeah.
you know me from the internet.
So, I mean, I personally, Zargos, I don't really know you too well, on a personal level. So I'm interested, as well as I'm sure some people who are listening to the show, just to hear a little bit more about who you are. So do you mind just letting everyone know kind of who you are, what you are related to the fandom, and I guess a little bit about how you found the show in the first place?
I'm basically just another fan, but it basically happened December 2012. I ended up falling into the show. I had been actually watching Phineas and Ferb, ended up on TV Tropes. That pointed me over to My Little Pony, and, well, just took off from there.
Cool. How did you find out about our show in particular?
As soon as I started watching My Little Pony, I started looking for all kinds of stuff online, seeing what people were doing. Found Everfree, and it's like, hey, this is a podcast about art. I think I could get into that.
Cool. When was that? Because I remember you were pretty early on, weren't you?
It wasn't right at the beginning, but that was January 2013 that I started watching.
Yeah. So it's about 6 months in. So that must have been like right after our fan art episode then.
Yeah, somewhere around that time frame.
Cool.
Yeah, probably. I think I remember you coming in because you were like in basically every single stream after that. So
yeah,
that's cool.
We do recognize people who show up and who interact with us on a regular basis. So
yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Well, enjoy the show. We're gonna have you work the same way as Thrayton last week, where you're gonna be talking about the art pieces with us. So you're an additional co-host this week, and hope to have some fun with you talking about art.
Yay!
Fluttershy art specifically.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I hear that your life is kind of crazy right now.
Well, the weird thing is, it's one of those things where I stress out not about actual events, but about planning of events. That's just who I am. So, these last 2 weeks of my life,
Which is funny because I don't plan things.
I know. So the last 2 weeks of my life have been exams, like second year university exams. So I've been doing those, and I still have one more to do. But I had that, and I had to organize a move. So I'm moving houses. By the time this comes out, actually, when is this coming out? The 29th? Yeah, that's the day I'm moving.
Oh,
so I probably won't be in the chat that night because I'll be moving. So I have to move houses, and I was looking for a job, and I managed to snag a job recently, which is awesome. But yeah, I've got like a new job and a new place that I'm living at with. Right now I'm living by myself in an apartment. It's just me in a bachelor apartment. But I'm going to be living with 5 other people as of Tuesday. So that'll be fun. Now, instead of my neighbors thinking I'm weird, it'll be my roommates thinking I'm weird.
Just like plaster your walls with posters of ponies and.
Well, it was more like I record a podcast every Friday and seemingly talk to myself.
Yeah. I mean,
that's fine.
If you do that more often than just with the podcast, then it's. Whenever we do the podcast, it's
don't
just
judge me.
Just
Don't judge me. Yeah, so my life is crazy, but it'll be fun. So luckily, it was looking like for a while I might not be able to edit at all during the summer, which would mean that Flutter Guy here would have to start taking over the responsibilities. But luckily, I did manage to snag this job, which means I get to stay where I'm living, where I wanted to live, and things have kind of worked out. So right now, it's not that crazy, but yeah, the planning of that was a nightmare. So the last 2 weeks have been stressful, but right now I'm like, whatever, it's all figured out. I just need to do it.
Heyo.
So
we've been talking like for a while, and you've been like completely stressed out about that whole situation. But now that things are kind of looking in place, that's good.
Yeah, like I said, I stress out way more about like the planning of stuff and like getting stuff organized. And the second that stuff is organized and like I don't need to do anything in preparation, I can do stuff. Like I can do podcasts, events, moving, whatever, all that kind of stuff. I can do that fine. It's just planning it is my big pet peeve. So
yeah.
I just think that's really funny because the complete opposite. I don't plan anything.
I know.
I just do it.
And it kills me,
great.
but it's okay because you've learned.
Yeah.
You've learned how to do it pretty well in this podcast. So I got to give you props for doing that at least.
Yay me.
Yeah.
Speaking of podcasts,
Speaking of art, so let's move on to the art. The theme this week, as Rainbow Plasma had mentioned, is, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, it's Fluttershy.
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 Yeah. It is Fluttershy. Second best pony. But
Once again, these weeks are looking a little bit biased.
I know, right? Anyhow, we're gonna move on to our first piece, which is called Fluttershy with Lilacs by Jai. And we're going to pass this piece directly to Zargos. So do you want to just tell us what you think about this piece and anything that you notice in particular about it?
The very first thing that I noticed on this is actually the more subdued color than usual. It's actually basically the lighting here has made a big effect on how Fluttershy looks. Doesn't look as brilliant as usual as a result of it. And being in the water, just the way her wings play on that and everything, bit of differentiation in the color on her left wing where it's hitting the water and everything.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of small detail to this too that I really like. Little things like you have the butterfly that's actually matching pretty closely in color with the lilacs.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I find it funny that you mentioned as it's less. I guess you could say saturated. It's a little bit duller than usual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I think you mean in general for the character, but I also noticed that Jai is a person who puts a lot of saturation in their pieces. So. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was just looking around at the gallery and it was like, oh, look, there's a ton of saturation there and this one's different. So it's interesting seeing an artist kind of, experiment a little bit more with that.
Yeah, and I definitely also noticed that with it being Jai because I'm familiar with the other pieces as well, and it definitely does stand out.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, Jai likes to use a lot of these bright colors and more deeply saturated colors. And this, the greens in the background are getting a little bit more saturated, but the overall piece is very dull.
Yeah, I was
color.
hesitant to use the word saturated because I'm not sure that that's the perfectly correct term, but there is definitely something, I think dull is a good word, and not boring dull.
I really like the term muted. That's usually the term I go for, and that's what I would call this because
Much
the entire
better.
color stream is extremely quote unquote muted or desaturated because there's not an extreme use of color and there's not an extreme use of brightness. Probably the most bright thing in this piece is the highlights around the wisteria, I believe that is.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it is.
Flowers.
I like wisteria.
Or
It's
no,
very
I
pretty.
think it's lilacs because the
Is it?
title is Fluttershy with
Fluttershy
Lilacs.
with lilacs.
Who has upside down lilacs?
I mean,
I don't know.
it could be a lilac tree hanging over the.
PRP
Oh,
Googling
okay,
lilacs.
like the lilac
Yeah.
tree. But lilacs
Yeah.
grow straight up.
No, those are lilacs.
Yeah.
Images.
Apparently.
Anyhow.
Anyways,
Um,
Apparently
Cutie
they're
Art,
upside down lilacs. Today I learned.
florists.
My bad. Maybe I should read the title.
It's okay. I completely missed that too. So
Yeah. Well.
I do. I like this piece in its mutedness because I don't know. It gives it kind of like a calm feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it.
Well, it's interesting because there is quite a couple of shifts in value. So I mean, there's you get the lilacs have this kind of edge to them that is very bright, like a bright white, and the lighting in the piece overall is very well done. So it is the colors are muted, but it's not like a very dull piece when it comes to the whole value of it.
What's interesting is going off the lighting. There's two different light sources in this piece. There's the light source given by what I'd say is the sun, which is behind, the upper left behind Fluttershy, and it's hitting the wisteria, creating that silhouette. But there's also a front character lighting, I guess we could call it that, where it's lighting up Fluttershy's face and it's lighting up her front. So it's more like a dynamic lighting, kind of directing attention and detail and stuff, hitting the front of the wings and details that Jai wants to show off,
Yeah, it seems like that's more of a diffused light, whereas the sun rays are kind of more specular and in a way.
Yeah. So in terms of the coloring of this piece, we were talking a little bit before the podcast about, the colors in this piece and were they complements? And what we ended up coming up with was there's actually 2 complements in this piece, which gives it kind of a, was it called tetratic? Or it's either tetratic or quadratic.
Yep, both the same thing.
They mean the same thing. It's just different technical terms. So it's 4 colors, but we've got 2 different complements here. We've got the pink or red in Fluttershy's hair and the green. We've got the purple and we've got the yellow. And those are 2 complements that kind of form like an X on the color wheel. I'm not sure, Bern, you might want to put up that screenshot that I took.
You could also call this a split complement or split complements, because the complement would technically be red, violet, and yellow, green, or kind of like the direct complements, and then they split those, creating 2 things that aren't super duper contrasting, but still look pretty and muted next to each other.
Yeah, and they definitely stand out amongst each other. So it's an interesting thing to place Fluttershy in a green scene, because you don't necessarily look at Fluttershy with her pink and her yellow and go, the opposite of this is green, because the yellow kind of helps kind of sort out the complement. It makes sure that it isn't a full like red and green shift. It kind of eases the difference between the 2 colors. But when you do place Fluttershy in kind of like a bright green environment or like a deep green, she definitely pops.
Mm-hmm. Well,
cool.
I think you see that a lot actually in art pieces that are done by the fandom, because A, she pops from the background, and B, because her character is very nature based. So there's a lot of green that's involved with her personality.
Yeah, it comes up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is just me postulating that the concept design for Fluttershy might have been with the colors that were chosen, might have been due to the fact that she is working with nature and with the green and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Maybe. Wasn't she based off a G1 character though?
Yeah.
Wasn't she all the ponies though? I feel like all the ponies were based off of
it, but Fluttershy was literally like the same. It was even the same name. She was the only one that kept her name, wasn't it?
We'll go with it.
Zargos, are you an expert on
I know
G1
Applejack. I do know that Applejack was actually a G1 name. I believe Fluttershy is based. I forget the name, but there was another name.
Oh, I don't think it was exactly
Fluttershy. Posey. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes, Posey.
It was Posey, but she had the same exact design.
Kinda, yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, that's Hippo though.
Oh, anyways, I'm dumb. Just ignore me. But basically, Applejack and Fluttershy had the same design. That's basically what it ended up being. But not perfectly. There was obviously differences. For example, Fluttershy gained wings.
Yeah.
Hey, I can fly.
Yay.
That was a big difference.
Speaking of wings,
anyways.
Zargos, you mentioned a little bit in the beginning when you opened, but like how the wings are kind of just like gracing the top of the water, kind of like floating on top. I really like that sense because it gives everything that really easygoing feeling, kind of just like smooth floating. It like helps this, I don't know, peaceful narrative kind of going on with her just like skimming the top of the water with her wings. I just thought that was really cool. Something that kind of caught me because the water isn't explicitly drawn, but you can tell she's in water by these little like light details and things floating on top of it. There's nothing directly like painted in this piece that says, bam, this is water. There's just tiny little highlights that show like her floating, which is like surface tension, right? And then stuff floating on top of it and like her hooves receding down into the green. But the art, like Jai didn't go, this is blue, this is watercolor, I'm gonna paint this. It's just like the same kind of green as the stuff in the background, which was really cool and makes everything kind of blend and seem unified, I guess would be the term, which is really cool.
And in this kind of scene, it's a lot more natural, too, because usually when you're dealing with wooded areas and the way light filters through the trees, you do have a tendency to pick up more green in the water.
Well, yeah, because like I think the main reason that water appears blue, like in the ocean or whatever, is because it's basically reflecting the sky, and due to like refracting and stuff.
Water is also naturally blue. Though.
Yeah, well,
let's not talk about why is the sky or the ocean is blue because I think
Well, I mean, there's a lot of it has to do with reflections, and a lot of it has to do with scattering of light.
I would agree with you, except when you're talking about oceans.
Yeah,
because I don't think
like
I think.
Yeah, well, okay. There's
oceans
also like
specifically have a blue
organisms
tint, and usually the reason for that, when they're deep or that they have a blue tint, is because blue and violet lights are the only light waves that can penetrate the water deep enough. So when you get deep in water, that's the reason why you get that blue tint, because it's the only light that can go there. And then when you have natural settings like this, it's because the water's murky or green or naturey and like has green stuff in it. Blah, 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 blah. But I wouldn't so much call it like the reflection of the sky.
I think there is some merit to it, but it's not the reason why some water is blue.
Right.
Cutie Art Crusaders' attempt at describing the world show.
We could tell you why the sky's blue. I know that one.
I know that one too.
Let's move on.
But anyhow, back to the art really quickly. Just one last thing because we have to move on to the next piece. Speaking of the water, I do really, really like how the water is done in this piece. Because like you said, Bernd, there's not really much that's explicitly states that it's water. Like it's not really that much of a change in color from the background trees and stuff like that. But you get these like the petals and stuff, and I really like two things about it. I really like where where Fluttershy is interacting with the water. There's a little bit of white to kind of show like creases or surface tension in the water has been broken. And I also really like that her hooves underneath the water are darker than above it to kind of show that like there's a little bit of refracting, and that obviously the water is absorbing some of the light. So I really think that was really well done.
Just all around, I feel like this piece is really well crafted, like intelligently done, and like the colors are really done, like, I don't know, well and smartly, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
Smart color scheme is a better way of wording it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we're going to move on to our next piece, which is called The Grove by Raydrob, who we featured in our crab episode because he made a piece for us, which is awesome.
Yeah, he made a piece for us, so
yeah.
Fan of the show, Raydrob.
Yeah. So Zargos, once again, going to put you on the spot with this piece.
Coincidentally, I was actually looking at this piece before I even came on. Just luck, I guess. It's a pretty well done piece, but the very first thing that I noticed was the bit of an anthro look going on. Not extreme. I mean, her head, her hooves and everything are still pony, but her upper back and upper arms very, very much more human in design, which was a little bit of a surprise. But I mean, overall, a very well done piece on that. You get the slight blush. You know, she didn't, as if she didn't know that there was anyone there, just realized there's someone there looking at her. She's got the butterfly just casting a shadow on her mane.
It is a really nice touch, and I'm a huge fan of the wings too.
Yeah,
very detailed wings, which is a nice touch that not everyone goes for.
Not all the time does everyone draw all the feathers. I mean, draw every feather.
Yeah, and I think something that was really interesting too is that I wouldn't necessarily classify the rest of Fluttershy as that detailed. There's obviously a lot of thought put into it, and it's not like there wasn't a lot of work put into it. But in terms of style, it's still very clean and very smooth, except for the wings. And sometimes it can be a bit abrupt when you have different levels of detail like that. But the style and the kind of how it's made manages to merge those two together in such a way that still looks like they belong together, even though they're on two different levels of detail.
Yeah, definitely, especially because you do get this kind of anthro-ish look to Fluttershy. So it's kind of like I don't know. It's almost as if like you can do anything with the wings, because there's a lot of different styles I've seen when it comes to anthro Pegasi and throwing the wings on, whether they're like super detailed or not super detailed or whatever. And either way it works, even if like the rest of the character isn't super detailed.
It's interesting that we were mentioning the anthroness of this piece because there is some really interesting anatomy going on here, and there's a couple of things that I've noticed that I can't educationally say, like I can't make an educated guess here and say whether or not this was intentional or not. But there's a couple of things that I noticed that was, we talked about the fact that the upper body is quite human-like, which is a bit strange, I guess, because it's something that I haven't seen a lot of. A lot of the times artists have a lot of experience drawing humans and not ponies, because a lot of times when you're taking art classes or doing art in your spare time, you were focusing very heavily on trying to get the human form down right. So I wonder if that's an influence there or whether or not that was intentional. Also, just noticed something that there was something a little bit off about it, and I realized that her wings are like way too low, considering the way that pony anatomy works. I was looking at some of the other pieces that we're even featuring today, and the wings kind of come out of just behind the shoulder, like just behind the shoulder blade. But as you can see there's an entire like almost second length of the shoulder blade, and then the wings happen. So it seems like it might be a bit too low. And I think if you're going to have a human like torso, then everyone always thinks of the wings coming out of the shoulder blades,
They
right?
associate it with angels.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I don't know, that was something that was like, there was something a little bit off about the wings placement, and I think that was it.
This whole piece is just really curious with me. Like from everything about the character, like my gaze instantly goes to like the character, to Fluttershy, and it is this weird, I don't know, concoction of like both pony and anthro, because it's I can definitely say it's anthropomorphized, whether or not the artist like knew it or intended it or not, but it is an interesting take on anthropomorphizing a pony character. And so it's like you have the extremely human back, something I pointed out before the show is the human arms, and then right at the bottom of our forearm at our elbow, the pony arm is like placed on top of that, and there's 1, 2, 3 like bones in the pony arm, when I believe pony arms have, I don't know how they work, just ponies. And then there's also like the skull is also extremely humanized too for me, because it has that extremely like kind of round thing coming off the like top of the head, like spine, because obviously like ponies don't really sit like that, horses don't sit upright, you know, so even this position that Fluttershy is placed in is a very human, sitting upright, straight back, straight spine position, which also gives that more anthropomorphized view.
Lyra would benefit.
Yeah, she would appreciate.
that.
And there's also the the pink eyebrows. I don't know if I've ever seen Fluttershy with pink eyebrows. That's another humanized thing.
Maybe other than a Trill.
Yeah,
Not true.
I have seen Fluttershy with some pink eyebrows. It's a different approach to it, and I don't know, an interesting touch.
Oh, sorry, I trilled the eyelashes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more that I look at this piece, the more I think that it was done intentionally, because it seems to be this like hybrid between human and pony. Like when you look at the skull and the skull structure, it seems so human, other than like a couple small details like the ear and the nose, but it's very human and it's very pronounced. This is an angle of Fluttershy that we never see from people, because it's one that looks strange to us. The hair is coming out like a mohawk, like it actually would, because she's a horse.
The hair is placed on like a actual profile view, like 90 degree angle view, the hair, but yet the head feels almost at like a 3/4 turned away from us. So it's kind of interesting. I feel like the hair maybe be wrapped around the skull.
But you see way more of the head than you ever would in the show. They always hide that, you know?
That's really true.
Yeah.
So there is this aspect of like seeing someone without hair is usually more jarring, I suppose. That's not always the case, right? But there is that aspect of seeing more skull than we're used to, and so there's something that throws you off there. And then I don't know, there's like 3 or 4 things about it where I just look at it and it feels like it's so intentional. Like this thing is supposed to be half human, half pony. And that's on purpose. And I'd love to hear back from Ray Drub about what the intentions behind this piece were, whether or not they just happened to be influenced by human anatomy, or whether or not it was intentional. Because looking at some of the other pieces that were done, they don't look necessarily like, I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like in the crab piece that Ray Drop did for our crab episode, there was also, I mean, there's kind of a creepiness factor to rarity in that. And I'm curious because like I really do enjoy these kind of looks to the characters, like Fluttershy in this piece and rarity in that piece. And I wonder if it is like intentional or if it's not intentional. One last thing that I wanted to go over before we move on to the next piece is I do like the lighting in this piece. I know I think Zargos, you pointed out the butterfly shadow, but there's also kind of the trees and the shading on the trees and the tree shadows kind of going off to the right of them there. So
I'd like to point something out too before we move along. Something I found interesting that keeps attracting my attention is that the background on the right-hand side is completely almost unfinished or undone. It's just like painted. It's just, all the paint, what do you want to call it? Brushstrokes are doing all the work, where it's extremely detailed on the left-hand side, and there's all this intricate tree work and branch work. It's an interesting, juxtaposition. It almost separates the piece in half for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It looks almost like sometimes when you see a motion blur effect used in things, it has a similar effect to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the story behind that is, but it's kind of interesting to have that composition and the juxtaposition of the sky, like right there. It almost looks like there's a cliff right besides Fluttershy, but there's no signs that it is a cliff besides just the sky being there. So
yeah, I'd love to see more from Redrop in the future. Keep it up.
All right, so we're gonna move on to our next piece, which is called Flutterbat by Sao Shin, and we decided to feature this one because we had a Flutterbat episode, and this one literally just came out, and it is amazing. So we thought we would feature it, even though it is Flutterbat and not Fluttershy.
Well, it was better than all the other ones we were trying to put in, and on top of it, we will never probably have another opportunity to feature Flutterbat because we've already done the episode on Flutterbat. So this is a great chance to do that, and it's technically part of a character now. So deal with it, nerds. So Zargos, why don't what's your opinion on this piece? It's very saturated. It's probably the first thing you'll notice.
Very saturated to the point where actually her mane takes on more of a red than usual.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even her yellow shade seems more intense than usual for as far as her head goes. You get the bone structure in the wings going on too, but you don't have the veiny structure that some of the artists have chosen to use with it. But one of the things I've noticed, they definitely did use a lot of reflection going on in the eye and on the apple. But outside of that, not only a little bit on the hair. Other than that, well, and on the front hooves too, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the red on the hooves is very interesting and well done.
I wonder where that light is coming from.
It's a lot of refractive lighting in general, I feel.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to point out that there's a lot of subsurface scattering used in the wings and in the ears.
Yeah.
Subsurface
again, not quite as detailed as some of the other veiny stuff that we saw, but definitely there.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, who haven't seen our earlier episodes with
Animators, spirits,
Jordana. Basically, subsurface scattering is when you get light that kind of shines through an object and scatters, so it kind of lights up the object,
diffuses, if you will.
Yeah, if you look, if you hold your hand up to a light and you look at the webbing in between your fingers or whatever, you can see some subsurface scattering there.
Even the red that comes through your hand is kind of.
Mm-hmm. So and bats normally would have subsurface scattering on their wings because they're very thin, and they're made of mostly cellulose structures. So it's you'll see that.
Ooh, fancy terms. Fancy. We have a biologist over here. Look out, folks.
Oh, look at that. First the ocean, now bats.
Well, we were a crabologist before.
It's true. It's true. We are trained crabologists.
We're experts on everything.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really cool stuff in this piece that I really, really like. This is probably my favorite piece that we're featuring tonight. It's just cool. It seems, different from stuff I normally see. I really like the whole, is that forced perspective going on, or what is that? Kind of the fusion of a lens focus of the blurring in the wing that's, in the foreground, in our face, so it's not our focus, so it's blurred. And then I really like the choice to make all these curving lines up towards the character, towards the center of the piece. So you have all the little claws on Flutterbat's wings on the left-hand side, and then her hair is actually rounded at the tips and also rounding in toward bringing your eye back towards her, and even in her tail and the bottom right, and then her wing in the top is obviously clawed inwards, again pointing you towards the piece. So there's all these lines doing crazy things, directing you outward, making your focus look outward, and then curling you back inwards towards the thing. I don't know, it's really cool that, the floating apple. And
is it directing to the character, or is it directing to that apple?
Ooh, I think it's just generically directing inwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the center, the focus of this piece is both her face and the apple. That poor apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a couple of things of blur. There's not just the blur in the wings in the foreground, but there's also the bats that are flying by on the bottom left-hand side.
It's kind of like a movement blur, right?
It's kind of more like motion blur. And there's also the bats behind her that are also blurred out. So there's obviously some sort of there's an aspect of focus in this piece, like a camera focus, which is cool.
Yeah. Would you say that is like kind of framing, like her wings, the wingtips and her tail and stuff is kind of framing her?
You could call it framing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Cool.
something going around the subject or like painted, illustrated around a subject that helps direct focus towards it. So you have like the wings and the points and like the direction lines that I was kind of mentioning, directing you back towards what is, Fluttershy's face expression and like this apple.
Yeah.
So all of it is kind of like a source of framing.
I would say that it isn't as obvious as some of the other pieces that we see, but like Bernd mentioned, there's a good 4 or 5 or 6 things there, and once you get up into like the 3 or 4 range, it's definitely there. It's just hidden more, perhaps, than other pieces.
Yeah. One other thing, I know, Zargos, you pointed out the reflections in Fluttershy's eyes, and I think that they're really, really well done, because if you look closely at it, you can kind of see the reflection of the apple in them. And you get also these other little spots that are like, you get this bright light towards the right of her iris.
And it seems to coincide with what appears to be like almost a lens flare going over the apple.
Yeah. And I don't know, it looks really well done, really like glossy, kind of like an actual Flutterbat eye.
Definitely recommend going out of your way to go to this DeviantArt page, this deviation, and download it, because like the full resolution really helps do this piece justice, where you can actually like the apple reflection and painted portions and blending of colors and all that fancy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the expression too is
Yeah.
probably the best expression in this entire episode. So I mean, it looks good. I don't know how to describe it. Some faces just look good. They look well done. They're kind of they're a bit cartoony, but not too far gone. There's just it's a really really good face. It's a great expression. And I don't know how else to describe it. It's just extremely well done.
Let's talk about it a little.
She just looks devilishly happy.
Yeah, let's talk about it a little. Like, what's going on in her expression? For like, I don't know, just to talk about things that people like when we do that on the show. What is it? For me, what really lends to her expression is 2 things. It's kind of like the upward turn of her smile or sneer. What do we want to call that? Like face, her hissing, or I don't know, vampire mouth. That kind of upturn of her cheek. How it also pushes up into her eye above, so it also looks like she's squinting. And she's on the top. She has a furrow in her brow, which makes her look more angry, like kind of aggressive. But it's also this big, huge, cheesy vampire grin, like smile going on. So,
there's definitely some facial structure there that is evident in. So like it's an actual face as opposed to just like an expression laid on some sort of like circular mold. There's definitely things like that. Something that I thought was really cool that I noticed was if you take your thumb or your hand or whatever and you cover one of the eyes, the expression almost changes a little bit, which is cool, and it shows you the impact of how eyes work. So if you cover the back eye, you get kind of like a really aggressive face, right? And it's very like focused and aggressive. And if you cover the front eye, it's a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more.
That's true.
Yeah.
A little bit more succubus as opposed to vampire.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's cool.
I think a 3/4 view, which is what this pose is, kind of lends to that, because the back eye, or in this case her right eye, is not as visible, and so it's kind of harder, I guess, to do certain expressions when you can't see like half of the eyebrow. So it comes off like this or like that.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of blends the two together when you've got both eyes there. Obviously, the more prevalent one is the emotion that you see more of, but there is a little side to it. There's a little side to her expression that is a little bit aloof and ooh, apple, So there's layers there, and that contributes as well. Also, the ears are fluffy and adorable.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah.
You have something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really, really enjoy when artists can do a painterly style, kind of like this, but still come off as like a cartoony expression or style as well.
That's what I want to talk about too.
Yeah.
It's,
Go ahead, quickly.
Yeah, okay. No, I was gonna say this painter style, the style in painting that this artist is doing, I really, really enjoy. We mentioned a little bit in the beginning about the refractive lighting. It's heavily evident in this red lighting on the bottom of Fluttershy as a character, like in her legs and her hooves, and most awesomely in the bottom part of her face, on her cheek, on our left-hand cheek, her cheek, whatnot. That bright pink right there. That's just such an awesome choice to use that bright pink. And in all other parts of the character, like, the artist isn't just shading it with, like a dull black or like a duller color. He's actually shading it with either a complement or a cool color versus a warm color. So, like, in all the shading on Fluttershy, on her body and wing on, like, the right-hand side is done in, like, a deep violet, which is extremely cool. And it's also, like, complimenting her as, like, as a yellow character. And then there's pink, like, shading being put into her other parts of, like, her hooves and her face. And it's always just colors mixing with other colors via, like, other being, like, a opposing color, or also, like, cool versus warm color. So, like, in this whole piece, we have also, like, cool versus warm, like, warm character, cool background, cool shadows, warm light. Like, all these things going on where it's just, like, again, a really smart use of color and smart use of, like, blending and using colors for shading, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yep. Fantastic piece. We're going to have to move on to our last piece because we're kind of running short on time, which is called Fluttershy by Butterbun. And Zargos, why don't you take this one away?
She actually has an armored look going on here, but it also looks like we have Fluttershy with, from the look of it, from the top going over her eye, it looks like she has a scar here. A little bit different. Probably, I'm not sure if it's a scar itself or it looks like blood dripping.
I think
so
that is
kind
blood.
of an injury.
Yeah.
So this is an unusual scenario for Fluttershy where she's actually probably more involved with battle. And her wings are also larger than usual.
Warrior Shy.
Yeah, I think there's some there might be some inspiration. It seems, maybe this is just me, but it seems like there's some sort of inspiration perhaps from a little bit of Japanese culture. The thing overall doesn't look terribly influenced by Japanese culture, but there's a couple things in there: the expression, the exemplified wings,
the way the mane flows, similar to what you see with the hair.
Exactly. So there's little influences there.
I feel like blurred floating feathers or objects or flower petals kind of going into the field of focus or like in front of your view in the foreground and like being blurred also feels like an inspiration from like anime and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of Japanese. A lot of times, what'll happen is there'll be this intense battle scene, and then something will happen. This very innocent thing, and it's meant to juxtapose the current situation that they're in. And so that's kind of like the innocent feather, or like a flower, or like a butterfly flying in between. I find that very common as well in whether that be Japanese movies or anime or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the hair too, it's like the whole thin lines and thin line work, and you get down to like expression and stuff like that. There's a lot of like influences from anime-esque art and stuff.
But the coolest thing is that it's definitely not anime. It's got inspiration from it, but it's its own kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely has like that similar style, but
yeah. Something I wanted to point out is, and Bern, I think you're a fan of this too, is the outlines around the entire body of Fluttershy. You get kind of these very bright outlines. Like if you look kind of right in between her right wing and shoulder, that entire empty space there's a line of this bright white yellow that goes around her and also around kind of the planet in the background, and then it changes colors when you get to kind of the starry space area. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because it's almost like that silhouette of light, because what's underneath her is extremely bright, like that. I guess what's planet is what it looks like to both of us, or like sky almost. I don't know, clouds, yellow, bright yellow color. It's casting almost like a light silhouette, but on the outside of her in that outline, instead of actually wrapping around the character like we usually see in silhouettes, like in our first piece, for example. So it is like kind of a unique choice to do that, and it's cool. And really, tends to the mood too, like how you see it, how you feel, because it gives almost like the character like a darker tone. You know what I mean? Like character's actually like up, like floating in space, not really well lit, and then you have this really bright thing illuminating light behind her, but not like silhouetting her. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, it kind of gives the piece a duality to it. Like there's there's the whole outer space like calmer side to it almost, where you get these purples and like blues and stuff, and the Fluttershy's wing is darker and stuff, and kind of composed on that. It's definitely a different feel than the bottom part of the piece where you get this bright yellow and white and stuff.
Which was the episode in which Fluttershy wore armor? It's one where she jousted Rainbow Dash. What episode?
Yeah.
Was that? Do you guys remember?
Crystal Ponies episode.
Crystal Ponies episode? Oh yeah, that's right. The Crystal Ponies jousting or whatnot.
That was season 3, episode 1.
Yes.
Yes, sure. We'll go
Yes. Yeah.
Zargarus, you're a pony expert.
I'm trying to remember if it's episode 1 or 2 of season 3, but it's definitely one of the two.
What
Yeah.
was that, a 2-part episode?
Yes.
Darn.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of those two.
Anyways, I like this little like warrior narrative going on. It's really cool, like with the armor, and then she has like a scar, like a black eye. Her jewel on like amulet on the front of her armor is also broken and cracked. And there's a little like I guess proverb or quote down in the deviation description that reads, "You're a soldier now, fighting in a battle. To be free once more, that's what's worth fighting for." It's kind of cool. Helps lend to this tone or narrative that the artist is trying to make, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
It
goes
was
well with
interesting
it
that they
'cause-
happened to choose Fluttershy too.
Yeah, and it goes well with it too with her expression. It looks almost like she's got a bit of regret for whatever just happened.
Yeah.
Seems
Definitely.
to not exactly the happiest expression. The other thing I'm noticing here that I kind of like is the use of the depth of field. Kind of gives it a little bit more of a standout look to make sure you're focusing more on her face and everything.
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
just with the feather either, but there's also the tip of her hair, and her lower body in general is blurred out what you can see of it. So there's not a whole lot of depth of focus, but there is definitely
Just
definitely
enough.
a piece
It's
in the
probably-
foreground and a piece in the background.
Yeah, like in her hair and on her side, you can catch it.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely lends to the whole overall feel of the piece. But I do like how Fluttershy, like in certain parts, is kind of silhouetted or silhouetting this bright background. Like if you look at her hair, especially, there's this patch of like really really darkness to her hair, which is blocking out the bright sun behind her or planet or whatever it is. And you get like these areas or patches where she is darker. And I guess it kind of goes back to our Applejack piece, or the last Applejack piece that we had in our last week's episode, where if you have a silhouette of something or of some character, like you should add enough detail in there to kind of make sense in the situation. And in this piece, like the background is very bright, so she's not going to be extremely dark, and because of the exposure of the piece is kind of more focused on Fluttershy than on the background. Like she is going to be still very detailed and in focus and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I really, really enjoy this piece just because I think of the duality nature and a bunch of other things.
Cool.
Yeah, and there is that juxtaposition between Fluttershy and kind of the whole tone of the piece too.
The coloring for me really stands out as well.
Yeah.
So it really sets it apart, you know? It makes it unique for me. It's this bright red that's going on.
Yeah.
And yellow,
Yeah.
obviously.
And the bright yellow, yeah.
It's interesting because like her hair isn't really that vibrant pink that we're used to. And I think in a lot of these pieces that we've shown, it's like kind of either more subdued or more saturated or whatnot.
Yeah. A lot
This-
of times it's closer to the red.
More blood red and orange like color scheme on Fluttershy lends itself more to that more like warrior-esque, more serious tone of a color rather than like, especially even in our last piece, like in the Bat Pony one, like she's more red to like kind of signify more sinister, you know, being vampire Flutterbat Fluttershy.
Yeah.
Same in this piece where pink seems more like an innocent color to me, you know.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so we're gonna move on to our questions.
Questiones.
The Cunas. And unfortunately, once again, we are missing our question master.
Can I do it this week? You did it last
you
week.
can do it this week.
Yeah, sweet.
Go ahead.
All right.
Can I do
So
the
our
last
very
one and you do the first one?
Yeah.
Cheater. I called it. No, it's okay. So our first question is from Linda Dash. I think that's how you pronounce it. And the question is, inspired by the episode May the Best Pet Win, what trademark should your... you didn't reword this.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What qualities, I guess.
All right. Inspired by the episode May the Best Pet Win, what qualities should candidates to be your pet have? And what animals would you like to see as potentials in the lineup? So basically, what kind of pets would you kind of have in a similar vein to May the Best Pet Win? So now I'm going to do the opposite here. I'm going to give Zargos the most amount of time to think about it here. So why don't we start off with Flutterguy?
Oh,
Okay.
I had my hand up.
Okay, Burn, go ahead.
Instantly I was trying to think of something, and I was like, ooh, I want an owl. I think that'd be kind of cool. Because there's definitely something to fly. Pegasus has to be able to fly with you, right? And then, like, it'd have to be super cool, like a bird or a bat. But then, like, bat pony would be fitting, obviously bat. But then I was thinking something nocturnal like bat, and I was like, probably owl. Because it is kind of wise, and I feel all smart and stuff about art. So, I don't know, some kind of little wise owl friend. Kind of like Owlicious, but not like Owlicious being that kind of like boring, like barn owl, if you will. But like one of those little weird, like fluffy, funny looking owls. Did
you ever see Guardians of Gahul?
I
Did you ever
haven't.
read that series or see that book? There's a character in there called Digger, and he's a little burrowing owl.
Yeah, little ground owls.
Yeah, he's cute and he's like silly, and every single person who sees those movies or reads those books loves him.
That'd be sweet.
So
We'll go
you
with
should-
that. Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, you should get a burrowing owl because I think they still fly.
Either
They
that
just-
or one of those really stoic, crazy looking owls with like the really weird, crazy like face. You know what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
Anyway, go-
The great horned owls.
go ahead.
Yeah, owls are cool, and they're kind of like they can be kind of creepy too when they like turn their head 180 degrees and like
Exactly. That'd be
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
And then I do it too, and like, what?
All right. Well, enough about The Shining. I think if I was gonna pick a pet, in terms of like the qualities, I don't really know what the qualities would be. I'm not huge into pets myself.
I love pets.
So like easy to take care of would be one of them, and something that kind of matches that. I would kind of like an otter. Like I think that would be cool, and mostly because I really really enjoy being in the water and I enjoy swimming, but I never do it because I'm too lazy. But if I had an otter, then it'd be like, oh, I have to because the otter's in the water.
I'm going to eat this on my belly.
and they're adorable and they're playful and they're fun. And I think that's what, for me, if I'm gonna have a pet, it might as well be lovable and playful. And
Did you know-
yeah, associated with the water, I think that'd be good. And again, kind of otters are like self-sufficient animals.
Have you seen that
So-
video of the otter like getting the like soda can out of like the machine? It's like, here,
I've seen like
got
every
this for
otter
you.
thing. It's so common on the internet.
So
Every
good.
single like Reddit cute animal thread
We
thing
need to
is
get you a
the one where
commission
the-
that's like your OC
the
floating on
otters
your
hold
back and like an otter next to you floating on its back.
and we got to be holding hands like they do in
No.
the
So you don't
because
get
otters
lost.
hold hands when they sleep so that they
Yeah.
don't drift away from each other. Right.
Did you
Flutterguy,
know
go
that
ahead.
otters have a favorite rock too? And-
Yes, I've seen that in every thread.
Can you hold my hand so you don't drift away from me?
Oh my goodness, Flutterguy, go.
I can't now. That's too
before
cute. I don't know. I like fuzzy, and I like the whole self-sufficient animal kind of thing. I personally would love to have a fox as a pet because they're awesome and adorable.
Oh yeah,
and,
you like foxes.
yeah, and really cute and stuff. But they're not really the easiest to take care of. So
I just
that's
said
like-
otter. That's not even a pet.
Yeah.
Also, we're in
It's the MLP
we're in
universe.
Pony World too, so it's like if
Yeah.
you have a fox, it can go hunt. Like if I have
Yeah.
an owl, it's just like I ain't gonna feed you. Go get your own damn food. And just like let
Yeah,
it go,
yeah.
and it
So
goes and eats mice. I don't know. Then
It's
it,
like MLP universe.
yeah, and
here.
it
Yeah.
ends up
Okay.
coughing up owl balls all over the place.
Okay,
Well,
well,
in that case,
pellets.
I would either go for like a red fox or maybe a fennec fox, or they're so adorable, big
Foxy.
ears and
Good
like,
choice. Very fitting. A cute pet to go with your cute OC.
Yeah.
It has to be a caramel colored fox, however.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
White
quite.
fox. Zargos,
So-
have you managed to come up with anything on the spot?
I'd probably end up going for some type of a bird. Usually most birds seem to be, they do take quite a bit of effort to take care of, but they seem to usually be some of the animals I relate to the most, actually. I get along with them very well and find a lot of them actually quite intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
I just saw a video of a heron using bread. It was using a piece of bread as bait on top of water to lure fish to come eat the bread, and it would grab the fish. What?
Oh yeah, it's actually there's a lot of birds out there, all different types. They've discovered that in general, birds are pretty good at actually figuring out how to make and use tools, which isn't the case with all animals.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, birds are smarter than people think.
Yeah. Well, especially like crows and stuff. Talk to our u/Unidan on Reddit about that.
Undian
Crows or ravens?
Yeah.
Is it crows or ravens?
Crows.
And
ravens, but crows.
Yeah.
Birds in general are pretty smart.
Yeah.
Used to have a couple giant crows in my backyard. Not around this year though, so far.
All right. So our next question, Bern. Do you want to ask it?
All right. Our next question is: the four of you, your OCs or yourselves or both, make up the party of a traditional medieval fantasy adventuring group. What are the roles in the party, and why do you think so? By late customer.
Dave.
So basically, it's like quickly come up with characters for like D&D. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of fantasy or medieval fantasy in that kind of thing. So it's why I've never really been into like D&D and stuff like that. But whenever I do play games like that, I always really enjoy playing the mage. Specifically like damage dealing mage.
So funny. Oh my god.
Not like healing mage, but like a fire or ice mage. That's what I played. That's what I played in WoW. I was a fire mage. I don't know. It's been so long. I probably am saying it wrong. Yeah, that's what I'd be. I'd be a mage.
Yeah. Well, I played D&D back in high school, and I was a bard, and I really enjoyed being a bard because I could lure things with music and stuff, and so I'd probably go with bard again because
That's so
music
good.
and stuff. Yeah.
If I had to choose, I'd probably be. I've tried out Archer once, didn't like it. Magic usually isn't my shindig, and like cleric or anything, so I'd probably go with something like paladin, I guess, something with a heal.
I feel like we've had this question, like a similar question before,
Yeah,
and I
maybe,
feel like
yeah.
you weren't there, and I said you'd be a paladin.
Because like I
So
like
that's
being
really cool.
like a supportive, like helping thing, but also like being someone who's actually like
Like I think I
Is
said
important.
warrior or paladin for you.
yeah. Which is extremely funny because I think after we had that question, when just you guys answered it, Otaku AP actually made a piece of fan art called Adventuring Party with the four of us, with me as a fighter, Rainbow Plasma as a wizard, Atmospark as a thief, and Fluttershy or Flutter Guy as a cleric.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
basically
yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
a bard.
That's funny.
Too
You'll have
good.
to put that
It's
out.
great.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, Sargos, how about you? What's your D&D shtick?
Well, actually, it's been a little while since I played D&D. I had gone in as a bard the last time I went through, but that's actually probably not as much what I would end up doing anymore. I think I'd be more likely to aim for being some kind of a healing mage, mainly for support, because I find that taking the even with the music, a bard tends to be a little bit more aggressive of a role than I would find myself apt to follow. So I'd say probably more of a mage that would be doing healing now.
Or priest if we're kind of in that kind of medieval fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we're getting more WoW, but
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
That's what I'm going to. But
yeah, that's my frame of reference
healing
too. So I
wizard
don't blame
thing.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like
I have no clue.
I
what,
like
Atmosparks would be.
tanky things too, because whenever I play games or whatever, I don't like being something squishy that just dies. Probably because I'm apt in games to make mistakes or put myself in situations I shouldn't be in. So I like being able to get out of those situations, being inherently tanky, or like I don't die easy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Are you a Leroy Jenkins, Burn?
Yes, quite.
Dio Chicken.
That makes sense. I think Leroy was a paladin. That's funny.
I think he was a
I
think he was a warrior because he was just like "Blah," like charged in.
Okay.
I don't
Maybe
remember.
he's a warrior.
I don't know.
I have no idea what Atmospark would be. I could say maybe thief, like kind of
Yeah, I could see a thief.
like
probably.
a thief rogue thing, but I don't know. He might be a warrior. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So
He's actually the gremlin of our party.
he's a necromancer.
Actually, I could see him being a necromancer.
So yeah, that is our questions for this week. Thank you for sending them in. Those are really fun questions. So thank you to both Linda Dash and late customer.
Quick,
Yeah.
Zargos, do the plugs.
No, come on. You can't push that on.
I can do them.
All right, Zargos. Do you think you think you could handle the plugs?
Not sure how well I'm going to do with it, but I can give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
Go ahead.
Okay, on DeviantArt, it's cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com.
Yeah.
There's, for emailing, you have cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's on Twitter, it's @cutieartcrusade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't go to the channel directly. What is the...
Oh, no.
no,
Okay.
it's
The
on
last one is
Facebook.
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 By
That's
the
right. I don't
way-
use Facebook.
Yeah.
By the way, I was thinking about this, and I want to hear what people say about this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put up a poll on our DeviantArt. And normally we do a bunch of polls on our DeviantArt when we're bored or we want to get some info out of people or just, generally kind of interact with the community and learn more about you guys. But we usually don't talk about it on the show. But this time I wanted to know from you guys, I'm thinking of not doing the Facebook thing anymore. I never use Facebook. Barely any of us use Facebook.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like there might be a better venue out there. I was thinking maybe Reddit because we use Reddit a lot.
We have our
That
own
might be fun.
subreddit.
Yeah, exactly. Like have our own subreddit and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna set up a little poll, and it's gonna have a couple of different options and stuff. And just let us know what you'd like to see instead of the Facebook
Well,
thing.
now hold on. I think we should talk about this because I'm the one that's usually putting up the Facebook messages, and we do get quite a few people looking
We do
at
get
the
a lot of
message
likes.
and likes
well,
and
now,
stuff like that.
what I
so-
mean by that is I don't necessarily mean we're just going to be like, no, it's gone. What I'm saying is maybe what we'll do is we'll put up a poll and we'll say like, do you find the Facebook part useful? And then people can vote yes or no. And then in the comments section, why don't you guys leave us some suggestions for additional things that we can do? Things like a subreddit. That was my idea, was the subreddit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not really a big deal for me to post to Facebook because it goes right to Twitter anyway. So
I wouldn't be
I-
something I feel like we'd throw
Facebook,
out.
though.
yeah.
Yeah. So let us know on that. We'll put up something. So go over to our DeviantArt. Again, that's cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com and take a look at our poll there. And you should probably be following us there too. Watch us, and we'll send up polls occasionally. So
Yep.
well, yeah, I'm thinking of revamping the plugs though, and kind of looking at some new stuff that we could do there, and kind of keeping it fresh.
We could do a live journal or a
No.
LinkedIn account or a Match.com account or
We've been talking about Match.com a lot. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been thinking about the YouTube page a lot too. I've been wanting to do something on the YouTube page, and that's
Yeah, we
slash
just,
Cutie Art
we
Crusaders
just
or
don't
whatever.
have time.
Yeah.
We just don't have time. So like I don't even think we have it on our.
I want to do
plugs
something.
anymore.
I've been talking to some artists. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll let
in
you
the
know
coming weeks.
on the show.
But
also,
anyhow,
good job, Zargos.
thank you for coming on.
Yeah. So thanks
thanks for having
coming on,
me.
For sure.
Yeah, it was a
we
pleasure, man.
are going to do another main pony episode next week, and next week it is going to be Rainbow Dash.
Rainbow
Hey.
Dash.
Rainbow.
Yes.
Rainbow Dash.
So we're gonna get down to our third out of our main 6 countdown to episode 100
Yep.
with Rainbow Dash next week. I know
Ew.
people expected this to be last, but it's not. It's straight in the middle.
Yep.
So yeah, look forward to that next week. As I mentioned with this countdown, we're getting up to episode 100. So please send in some emails to us answering 2 questions. What have you learned from the podcast, and what have you enjoyed about the podcast? You can send us in text that we'll read on the show, or you can send us in a short little audio clip that we will play on the show. We'd really appreciate it that you could send that in, and you'll be on the show for episode 100.
Hey.
All right. I think that's everything.
Yep.
There was like 6 things to talk about, but I think we covered all the bases. So,
I think we're
Zargos,
good.
did you have fun today? It was a
Oh,
great.
definitely. It was, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
a pleasure to talk with all of you. I wish
Yeah.
Atlas Spark was here, but, well.
Hey, you know what? It
Yeah.
happens. He'll be back next week. So
Yeah. Well, thank
hopefully
you for
that'll-
coming on, and this is quite fun.
Some great points, artistic opinions. It's very good.
exactly. You sounded.
Burn
you sounded
seal
great,
of
so-
approval.
Is it Burns seal of approval, or was the thing we were talking about before the Burns seal?
No,
of
it's not Burns' adequate seal of okayness. No. That's
Yeah.
like a seal down. This is the next seal
Wow,
down.
you got his seal of approval.
Whoa.
That's
That's
pretty.
big.
It's pretty high regards. It's pretty
Yeah.
high regards.
That's
All
kind
right.
of a scary thought.
Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for watching, whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube. I personally love you all the same. I'm not sure about these other guys.
I love you more.
They can discuss their own feelings in time. Some people just take a little bit longer to talk about it.
No, I love you more.
So, burned.
Whoa.
My goodness, this is happening so fast. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's 95 episodes. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Like I said. Oh, and make sure to stay tuned for the Spoilercast right after this. But other than that, my name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Burno1.
I'm Flutterguy 317.
Zargo.
Oh, you want me to actually chime in, huh?
Yeah, do it. Do it.
And this is Zargos.
Yeah. All right. See you guys next week.
Bye. Hello and welcome to the 22nd Spoilercast done by the Cutie Art Crusaders for My Little Pony Season 4. My name is Flutterguy317 and today I am joined by Rainbow Plasma.
Ron Boo.
And Burn1.
Bearned.
And today we're going to be spoilercasting My Little Pony Season 4, Episode 23, Inspiration Manifestation.
So
I really like the titles that rhyme.
Yeah.
But- Yeah.
I can't say I have an affinity towards most of the time I actually ignore titles. Like whenever I edit the spoiler cast, I can never remember what the title is. And so I always have to listen back to the audio to listen to what the actual episode title is. The only time I ever remembered it was Twilight Time. Because they said it like 50 times in the episode.
Twilight time.
Twilight!
I like titles.
So, Twilight was in this episode, but she wasn't the main focus. This episode was a big spike in rarity and owlicious episode.
Is that name possible to say without like sounding like you're slurring?
I don't think so.
It's always, every single time I say it, even if I know I'm about to say it, it's always like owlicious.
Is it owlicious or owluicious? Or,
I think it's owluicious.
Yeah.
Which is like really dumb because then no matter, even if you say it slowly, like your mouth doesn't like it, owluicious, you're like, no, I don't like that. I disagree.
Yeah.
Whatever, I totally agree. Maybe I just really like slurring words, I don't know.
I don't know, maybe.
You gotta say it like a snake. You're like, owluicious.
There's no S in the
How
middle
it's
of the
properly
owl.
pronounced.
Yeah.
Don't discriminate against my snake people. Just, please.
I'm sorry, Pierre.
Are you trying to
sorry, thank you. It's
insert...
pronounced Psiernd.
There's a silent D in there somewhere. And a non-silent S.
So, Rarity is trying to make this puppet theater contraption thing for this full fair, Philly fair kind of thing. And it's like really kind of gaudy.
Oh, I mean, God, it was awful.
Yeah.
Everything in this episode that Rarity created was like so god awful. That's why, like, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but that's why I think the thing that was taking over her was kind of doing that more so than her, because I can't believe that she would. See, I don't know what her. Does she have an obsession with gold and gems? Like, it doesn't seem like the rest of her designs have that.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It's kind of weird because like she is like very fashion forward and like gold and gems and like over the top stuff is not really necessarily fashiony.
It was definitely like that's the exact word that I thought of while I was watching this episode. I was like, this is really gaudy.
Yeah.
Come on now, where's your suspension of disbelief? It's supposed to be over the top gaudy as part of the joke, and that's the whole premise of this episode that it's laid on, is that she makes this thing and then the dude doesn't like it, right?
Yeah.
That was more where I lost my quote unquote suspension of disbelief, where it was like the whole episode was resting on like, all right, this guy needs a puppet thing. I'm gonna make a puppet thing that doesn't work. Go episode, and like that was the entire intro.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that my suspension of disbelief was gone. You know, it's not like I don't believe that Rarity would do that, but I just think that it was whatever was controlling her, or, you know, it was just the fact that she was going crazy and that's why she was doing it, you know?
Yeah, later on in the episode, I could totally feel that because she was just going wild. But like in the beginning of the episode, she just, I don't know, made something over the top, and that sounds like Rarity, you know?
I mean, I guess it is her special talent to go get gems and stuff, so she might be more inclined towards that. And maybe the reason why she doesn't use them more often is just that she doesn't have them.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. It's like I feel like maybe the specifications weren't clear or something, because like she's got flowers in the window of this like the puppet theater.
Right.
Like where are you gonna put the puppets? Like
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, he was also just a jerk in general, right? But
Yeah.
That's the point.
I know. Just saying. Just stating the facts there.
Just stating.
Just stating.
Stating the facts. That guy was a jerk.
Don't
He
hate.
can
Just
burn in
state.
Puppet
It's a
Hell.
fact.
So, so Spike just decides that he's going to help Rarity because she calls him her favorite dragon, and like Spike gets all gushy and like really, really in a helpful mood. So he and Alice just go to the old castle, and they're like looking at books, which I'm really happy that they keep revisiting that castle, because
I feel like, did Owlicious follow him to the castle?
Yep.
I feel like he went to
Yeah.
the castle, and then Owlicious was just there.
He was just there, just hanging out, just like, I don't want to deal
Yeah.
with all you
Well,
pony.
was Owlicious
Maybe.
present in the episode at all beforehand? Or, like, when I first noticed Owlicious is when Owlicious was sitting in that library.
Yeah,
when
I
when
didn't.
it was
I don't
in it.
remember.
Yeah,
Maybe he
actually,
was flying alongside Spike at the beginning for like one shot, but I didn't notice it in particular.
Yeah, he's like, what I ended up thinking in my head is the only time I noticed Owlicious was in the library was that, like, that's where Owlicious lives. Just kind of, like, chills in this book library. It seems very fitting of an owl, you know?
Yeah, I guess.
yeah, especially
Anyway, sorry,
like
go ahead.
especially Twilight's owl, because books and stuff. Yeah.
I do like the castle though. I like the fact they're including it more. It's a really cool environment.
Yeah, and I like
Definitely.
I like a lot of the shots that they used, like scenery wise. I have a freeze frame up right now, and it's like looking at like out of a window from the castle, and it's just like it's really nice. I don't know, it's pretty. Which the styling in MLP is very simplistic, but the castle kind of provides that setting. So anyhow, Spike like is looking through all these books and whatnot, and ends up finding a trapdoor to some like really dark like looking book, and it's got spikes on it, and it doesn't look pleasant. But of course he decides to take it, and it's basically a spell for granting someone the ability to summon anything they wish, or something like that.
Yeah, for the cost of their sanity, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he gives it to Rarity because, she's like eating ice cream by the barrel and
goofy.
is like super, super depressed. So he gives it to her, and she just like starts going crazy.
I like kind of the implications that it talks about in magic. I mean, we've had other hints at this before, but I truly believe, like, my headcanon is that magic, while we look at it and we're like, oh wow, unicorns, they're just good at magic, but like they can't do everything, okay? Like the way that I imagine it is that unicorns can learn a couple of basic like everyday spells in school, right? Something like teleportation, maybe, but people that might be more advanced, or they do levitation is a big one that all of them or most of them know. And so there's a couple standard ones, right? But for the most part, other than that, you don't really have that much unless you like go and practice, like unless you have like your special ability, that's just magic that you can learn easily, Rarity's gem thing, but it's very mysterious, and it's not like super easy, which is why people are like, well, why doesn't Twilight just use the gem finding thing? Maybe they don't know how to do it, and Rarity doesn't know how to do it either. It's just natural to her because it's her special talent, and like Twilight having the element of magic, her special ability is magic, and you're like, well, that's silly because all unicorns can do magic, but she's good at learning all types of magic, right?
Yeah. It's
So I really like
interesting.
that kind of take on magic and how it's like hard to do. Similarly, like, with like Pegasi, how like they don't all know how to fly, and it's not easy. They have to go to like a camp to like learn how to fly, and some of them don't even like doing it. It's really interesting.
like Fluttershy. Yeah.
It's just kind of like anything, where we all have to learn something, whether it be a skill or, I don't know, I guess in Pegasus it's like a sport, sort of, getting better at something athletic almost, learning.
I think like something like flying would probably be similar to walking, So like you obviously would
like
learn how to
swimming.
do it, or like swimming. I guess.
Swimming, riding a bike.
Yeah. So you would learn how to do it, but like maybe you don't become a runner. Like people who walk don't necessarily.
You need help with the analogies, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like
The point I was trying to make is that it's relatable,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that about it. I really like the fact that, I don't know, I mean, like, I know it's a fantasy world about magical ponies, and, like, my suspension of disbelief is huge. But, like, I do like it when they try and make it realistic, because, in a way, it also fills in those plot holes where it's like, well, why didn't she just magic here? It's like, because magic isn't easy.
Yeah.
You can't just magic whenever you want, whatever you want, unless you have this book. Which makes a lot of sense why she would be suddenly, like, so into it, because, she probably looks around at all these other unicorns who can do crazy other things, and it's like, well, I'm not too good at learning magic, it's not my special ability. And all of a sudden, it's like, now I can do all the magic that I can imagine, It's the same as if we got magic, and we're like, we could do whatever we want, because... the distance between rarity and that level of magic is larger than like the distance between us and her level of magic, Like it's that big of a gap that like she would have the same kind of like, oh my God, this is amazing, I can do anything kind of reaction.
Yeah. It's it's interesting like the different ways they kind of show the limitations of magic. Because they don't really explicitly state it in the show at all, but like for instance in this episode with Rarity and needing the book to perform to that level, or like for instance Twilight being able to teleport to some places but not to others. I don't know, it's like it's kind of interesting, and I do like the fact that like it's not like, oh, you're a unicorn so you're kind of all powerful, all this magic and stuff like that.
Yeah
But
Also, did you guys notice that Twilight has the ability to phase other people through walls?
Yeah, that was
Has she
cool.
done that before?
I think she might have done something similar, but nothing quite like that. I remember looking at that part of the episode and seeing like their faces, and as they phased through the wall, and I was like, yeah, they're traumatized for life.
Yeah.
Like they just phased through a
didn't
wall.
notice
I'm sure
their
that felt
faces.
lovely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those
that was
poor
funny.
guys.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this because it's gonna seem like the other characters are bad. Out of every character, I like Twilight so much more than any of the other characters, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just the bias that I happen to like the character better, but she was great this episode. Just the little bit in the middle was pretty good. Her interaction with Spike, once again, Twilight Spike interaction is by far the best Spike interaction. And then her little bit at the end was amazing. So I don't know what it was about it, but she stole the episode in my eyes, and maybe that's bias, but I really enjoyed her part in this episode.
Yeah, seeing Twilight in this episode was awesome, especially at the end when she was super frazzled and kind of like chewing Spike out. I wish she'd chewed him out harder, but I think the real star in the episode, and for, what is it, Flutter Guys and I Eyes was Owlicious by far.
That's an inside joke. Do you want to explain that one, Flutter Guy?
I'm not really a
Owlicious
big
is great.
fan of Owlicious.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
He hates all owls.
No, I like owls, just not
That was my
that
favorite
one.
pet last week.
Just
Yeah.
I mean, just not
yesterday.
Last week.
yeah, just not licious owls.
Yeah. Just you know what? No, it's all due to his name. I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, so therefore I don't like him.
Well, I liked him. I liked him this episode. He was a sassy pants, and I liked it.
Yeah.
Sassy owl.
So
Yeah.
Who's kind of just like this overwatching character who can't talk, who just kind of, the entire episode was just like, come on, Spike. You're being stupid, Spike.
Yeah.
Come on.
well, that
What's
was one
up,
of the
Spike?
reasons why
Come on.
Twilight was so good at the end, because like it just brought everything together. It's like every like kind of like silly mistake that he made or like misconception, she was like, really like, you thought it was a good idea to go into the ancient castle where there's a bunch of magic stuff and just take a book, okay? Like she went her
there's
own
no way that-
like she went her own like type of crazy this episode, which is great.
Yeah. I have to agree with you in the fact that like I really, really enjoyed Twilight as a character. Because she seems to be fairly level-headed, and when she does like spaz out or go insane, like it's really something to watch and like over the top, or it's like you kind of agree with it, like in this episode.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I don't know.
Okay, we have to talk about Rarity, or Silver's gonna kill us all.
Yeah.
Because it was a Rarity episode. So Rarity went crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
It was a great kind of crazy.
It was.
Yeah,
It was
seeing
also
her
like
go
a
crazy.
slow roll kind of crazy too. Kind of like
Yeah.
what they did with Lesson 0. But I feel like Lesson 0 was a bit quicker on like the whole she went crazy part.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was definitely a moment where you're like, oh no, she's crazy. Whereas in this one, it was like
snapped.
she was like, okay, this is getting weird, and then it went on from there. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were definitely like hints and tropes and stuff that like led to you believing that.
Oh, I mean,
Rarity
it was
going to be-
obvious, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Just the three of us.
That was definitely a moment where I was like, I physically said out loud when she said, it's just the secret between the three of us. I was like, 3 of us?
Maybe she means Aloysius.
Yeah, I think Spike had some moments, like some really redeemable moments where there was a couple of reactions where it was just perfect. Like when he was mentioning he was like 3 of us, like that was really great.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember what Rarity said before, but it was like something like I'm so happy or I'm so whatever. And then Spike goes, I'm so scared. And it was like, that was really well delivered.
That was like one of my favorite lines in the whole episode.
Yeah, that
like,
was really good.
Yeah. I sometimes feel bad for Spike because like especially when he's put in this situation because like he doesn't know any better. Like he's trying to fawn up to Rarity and like he found her this book and it's like okay, this is gonna help her and she's gonna be happy and stuff, and then like all of a sudden it goes out of control and it's just like what do I do now? Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I could see where you're coming from. And like, I definitely, there is some leeway to be given there. There's just certain points where it like goes over the scale for me and I'm like, nah, that was just stupid.
Yeah.
And yeah, I see that in real life as well, where sometimes it's like, I can see, you're a young person, it's not a big deal, that stuff happens, everybody does it, or like, stuff like that. And then there's ones that it's just like, nah, that's stupid. That's like American Airlines deal stupid. but yeah, there was, I do definitely like feel for him and he was just trying to help, so.
Yeah. But yeah, so Rarity goes completely insane and bonkers. Like she creates a new puppet theater for the guy, and he's finally happy about it. And then she like locks herself up in her house and like it creates the next 7 years worth of fashion.
Wasn't it 15 seasons?
Yeah, something like that. And then
However long that is.
yeah,
15 more seasons.
And then she just like decides to go around and beautify things in Ponyville, and by beautify she means like godify.
Gold everywhere.
Yeah, golden roads and like
Crazy Rarity beautiful.
Yeah.
The crystal tree.
I have to admit that pink tree was kind of good looking,
Yeah.
but the
I
rest
just
of it
thought
was
it was
kind of
funny, like
ooh.
paving the entire city with gold,
Yeah.
I also liked when the like one of the first ones she did was Applejack's cart, and it was just
Yeah.
like, I don't know why, but just the juxtaposition of like crazy Rarity turning something like super golden and gaudy, and just like Applejack being there like, well, I don't even know what's going on right now. It just made me laugh so hard. Just like her like, what
Yeah.
in rhubarb pie? And I don't know why, it's just so funny to me.
Yeah. And then the whole Rainbow Dash dress thing too. I think that was the
that was
second
silly.
one.
I wonder if she ever got out of that dress. She was like trying really hard to get out of it.
It seemed like
Yeah.
it might have been like some sort of magic dress that wouldn't come off. We're gonna see her
I
next
wish they would,
episode
like-
just be like, guys, I need help with this dress.
I wish they would have returned to that, like while they were going through the town again, like in the background you just see Rainbow Dash like, like crash into something again. Like, well, come off.
That'd be funny. And then they visit Fluttershy, and she turns a birdhouse from this cute, tiny little like wooden birdhouse into this giant bird mansion. That's
That
all
was
like
really funny, actually.
marble,
That entire
yeah.
interaction. Thanks for reminding me. I actually forgot about that. That whole
Yeah.
interaction between Fluttershy and the bird in the house is great.
yeah.
That poor
No,
Robin.
I think that's the door to the bedroom.
Yeah, it's just like,
Oh no,
you're
that's
just like,
a
okay,
shoe
this is normal.
closet.
Yeah. Are you lost in your house?
There's a shoe closet. That's a bird.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was definitely some really funny moments. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that this episode stood out to me as like, man, I really love this like overall, but there were definitely some really good moments that stood out for me that were like funnier than usual. You know, just little things here and there that were better than usual. So props to the entire team.
Yeah. Oh, and we would be remiss to not touch on Pinkie Pie's involvement in this episode too, with the Philly party. It looks like a birthday party or whatever, and she comes and turns it into this like ornate ordeal.
She was speechless.
With like, yeah, with Octavia and the cello orchestra and stuff.
Those poor fillies. Their faces, and they're like, "Oh, my cupcakes."
I know. And that one got her spoon stuck in the ice sculpture.
I was like, well, that's not even changing it to another food. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I liked how people were mentioning it was like, you know, Octavia and the rest of the cellists are just so professional that they were teleported halfway through their show and they just kept playing.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, that's professionalism.
Yeah. So yeah, at the very end, Spike kind of confesses that Rarity's stuff isn't beautiful and that she shouldn't keep going on, and she gets freed from the spell, and yada yada yada.
It
Everyone
goes
lives
somewhere.
happily ever after. Yeah, dark magic is alive and well in the world.
I like the fact there was a couple things that I wanted to quickly mention because I know we're getting up on time, but there's two things that I wanted to mention just really quick. One of them is just I like the fact that when the spell was reversed, everything else stayed the same, so they had to go fix it, which led to some fun Twilight stuff at the end, you know.
Yeah.
So there was that. But then also, did anyone else feel like the truth that came out in order to set Rarity free was really anticlimactic?
Yeah, well, you mentioned this beforehand, and I do feel like that a rant would be kind of more appropriate.
Yeah, I expected it to be such more of a big deal, and it ended up being like, nah, it's actually ugly, and then it's like, oh, I'm free. it's just like that Spike's attitude. It's like, nah, it's ugly, I hate it. She's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought there would have been like a 2-minute long speech from
Exactly.
Spike, and then like it ends with him like professing his love for her, and then it's just like, oh, well,
Right off into the sunset.
This is awkward.
Hey, you
Yeah.
could technically do that because she's a horse and he could ride on her back, like an old Western movie.
All right,
Except
we are
weirder.
kind of getting short on time here, so thank
I'm
you guys
long
for
on
listening.
weird. So
Thank you guys for listening to the Spoilercast and for listening to Cutie Art Crusaders before this, if you did that. So join us next week for our 23rd Spoilercast, and for, what would that be, episode 96 of Cutie Art Crusaders?
yep, but only 3 more episodes to go of Pony.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. What's in the box?
Will my predictions come true?
Hey, Gravity Falls is coming back soon.
Yeah.
No, sorry, it's
Oh,
22
okay.
minutes. Burned.
Yeah. All right. So thank you guys again for listening. My name is Flutterguy317,
Ron Boo Plasma.
Burned 01.
and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
It's not funny if I'm the only one who does funny news.